I just wonder how many times were you thinking about the contrast between what's going on in the world, what state it is in, and how our church life feels like within our worshipping community. Today's first reading from Prophet Isaiah gives us an encouragement. It is not about spotting what is wrong in the world and lamenting over it, but to see how different Christians' life is within a church. The first reading is a practical challenge to all of us. It highlights perhaps the most wounding problem, the life of the poor and injustice in society. He mentions fasting, which is accepted only by God if it leads to losing the bonds of wickedness, to undoing the straps of the yoke, to letting the oppressed go free, to sharing your bread with the hungry, and to offering the homeless hospitality and accommodation. If prayer and life brings this action of God into the world, if we bring His righteousness into the world, only then you shall call and the Lord will answer. You shall cry and He will say, "Here I am." So today's gospel is not about the contrast between the world and our ideals, our Christian ideals. Actually, we are given a wonderful, life-giving map how to organize our life. When we come to worship, when we are engaging in the activities of our local church, we feel a difference. We instinctively know that on this small spot of the kingdom, it is a lot easier to be fair with one another, to bring reconciliation, to help someone out in physical or financial need. The local Christian community celebrates this, that on this spot of the kingdom of God, we are good stewards. And if someone encounters us, the person can regain their hope. I've taken 2 photos last week. One of them is the cloister yard of Westminster Abbey, a previous Benedictine abbey. This is a yard, a square-shaped yard, where the monks had their procession and prayer. After worship and prayer, they went to the refectory or the dining room and had their meals. Every monastery in the past and every existing monastery with its gardens, ordered spaces, social activities, is like a flourishing spot of the kingdom of God. And today's first reading invites us to see ourselves as a similar community when there is order, when there is beauty. There is beauty of encounters and trust among people. There is the beauty of friendship, or when there are married couples in a worshiping community, there is a beauty of a mutually committed relationship. And this is our mission. When we make a step further, and this is also part of our call, I hope it works. This is right the entrance of my gate. It was totally clear a week ago. People are coming, being there, getting rid of their rubbish, and it's very, very annoying. It's disheartening. It kind of highlights the contrast. It's almost tempting to give in that what a world it is. I'm paying the council tax and I'm cleaning up the rubbish. It even went through my mind that I'm going to send an invoice to Barnet Council. My hourly rate is £45, £90 for the past 2 weeks for doing the work which the council is supposed to do. But then I was contemplating on this contrast in the positive light, that this littering clearly shows the nature of sin. On the surface it's littering, but it is a clear mirror that in people's life how sin is present. Without being judgmental, I would be really interested in, without names, just to see that person's life story. What's going on in that person's life? Is he stealing something from his workplace? Is he telling lies or something? So whenever we see a street like that, think of the fact that what a privilege it is to be a Christian, that we have a living conscience, that despite this lack of beauty in the world, week in and week out we are creating beauty. Yesterday, few of you came in this cold church and did the cleaning of the church. Invisible work, but this is bringing beauty. A couple of weeks ago when we had lunch and you brought a magnificent spread of food, it's bringing beauty to the kingdom of God. And we really realize that every Sunday we celebrate this life, the potential of love of which we are capable of. Prophet Isaiah mentioned the poor and injustice. I'd like to quote from the Apostolic Exhortation of Pope Leo, which is our progressive reading, mostly in the evening prayers. That what an extra eye we have. And just think of the fact that those people who are doing this littering, what life, what knowledge of the church they are carrying in their heart. An inescapable challenge for the church today. So let us connect it with our first reading. While it is true that the rich care for the poor, the opposite is no less true. This remarkable fact is confirmed by the entire Christian tradition. Lives can actually be turned around by the realization that the poor have much to teach us, that the poor have much to teach us about the gospel and its demands. that the homeless, the rough sleepers, those in debt on universal credit can teach us a lot about the gospel and its demands. By their silent witness, they make us confront the precariousness of our existence. The elderly, for example, by their physical frailty, remind us of our own frailty, fragility, even as we attempt to conceal it behind our apparent prosperity and outward appearance. The poor too remind us how baseless is the attitude of aggressive arrogance with which we frequently confront life's difficulties. Think of politicians, the arrogance with which we confront life's difficulties. The poor remind us, the elderly remind us how uncertain and empty our seemingly safe and secure lives may be. Here again, Saint Gregory the Great has much to tell us. Let no one consider himself secure, saying, I do not steal from others, but simply enjoy what is rightfully mine. The rich man was not punished because he took what belonged to others, but because, while possessing such great riches, he had become impoverished within. While possessing great riches, he had become impoverished within. This was indeed the reason for his condemnation to hell. In his prosperity, he preserved no sense of justice. The wealth he had received made him proud and caused him to lose all sense of compassion. So we are, as Christians, who experience God's kingdom in its beauty and all its potential, we are offered to be enriched inside and not to be impoverished within. That is why every community is responsible, individually and collectively, how we enrich ourselves with it. Through living in love, through being compassionate, but also by nourishing our conscience by the teaching of the Church, from the Holy Scriptures, from spiritual readings like the Pope's encouragement, or simply by what I keep recommending reading, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Every religious community, as a family of prayer, has a rule. It's a collection of rules, practical and spiritual, like the rule of St. Augustine, the rule of St. Benedict. And I just wonder if for the churches in the Catholic tradition, like ours, in the sacramental tradition, what could be the best rule which gives us orientation in terms of moral decisions, teaching in the Church. And honestly, I couldn't find a better progressive continuous reading than going through all aspects of church life. As you will see in the Ten Commandments, after the Ten Commandments, when we started prayer, what prayer means, how God thirsts our response, and how the human heart, which is the center of decisions, moral decisions, the center of clarity, the center of discernment, how it needs to be kept, enriched and cultivated. And I think I lost my last thought on that, but everything is there. How to cultivate our heart responsibly.